Hi, welcome back to Canva Tips for Authors. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a book cover workshop. So, apart from being a Canva nerd and a rom-com writer, I also make book covers. These are some book covers that I've. So, this one is fantasy for Ruth Long's 10th anniversary edition of The Treachery of Beautiful Things. This one is one of mine. It's rom-com. This is a non-fiction book which Christophe wrote. It's all about running. And this is another one of mine, rom-com. Again, slightly different feel to the previous rom-com. Okay, so now I often talk about the Canva Tips for Authors Facebook group where authors who like to mess around in Canva talk. And one of the things that I did on there was I put up a post saying, um, what would you like to see in this group? And the most common thing was we would like to know more about book cover design. So I said, all right, give me some titles with genre and subgenre, a little bit of detail, and we'll see what we can do. And so Mel was the first one to comment, and she said she gave me the title, The Improbable Three, and the subtitle, A Journalist, an Athlete, and an Addict Walk into a Mystery. So which already tells me this is a mystery. Main themes are family and friendships of 30-year-old female main character, some other things about there's a little bit about the death, trigger themes of historical abuse and narcotics. It's not at all dark, has quirky characters making an appearance throughout. And she said this is the cover mock-up that she'd done. But most people felt that if it wasn't for the strapline, it looked a bit like nonfiction. Anyway, so we did a little bit of digging. There was a bit of to and fro and saying, well, what books are your comps? Who writes books that are similar to this book? And we ended up talking about C.L. Taylor and Dorothy Koomson and their psychological thrillers, which are thrillers, but have a deep psychological, emotional element to it. Okay. Mel said, oh, Dorothy Koomson is a really good comp because that's somebody whose books I love. So what I did then was I went to Dorothy Koomson's website. I like Dorothy Koomson's books too, actually, especially her newer thrillers. And then I had a look at the thriller ones because I think once you get down to around here, you're getting away from the thriller aspect. So, okay. So they're all a little bit dark, really brightly colored text for the names, like color pops out. Little flashes of color in them. So this one has flashes of pink. This one has this really bright beach hut thing. And a nice little red reflecting the red there. So yeah, so quite dark blues, dark greens, black, and then little pops of color in the title or in the name. Okay. The other thing is that there's not so many people. Tell me your secret has a person, but half a person really. Not so many people, mainly objects or settings. Okay. So I went back to Mel and I said, have you got any objects of significance or settings? And looking at the design that she'd come up with earlier, I got the feeling that there was water involved. And she said, yes, there's a pier and there's a jade necklace and a few other things. So I spent a couple of hours on Canva looking for things and playing with things and moving things around. And I ended up with this, which is, let's make it a little bit bigger, which is much more in keeping with the genre. So the idea of a book cover is that your buyer will look at it and go, I know what genre this is, and I like that genre, right? You don't want people to look at your cover and go, I don't really know what this is about. I don't know if I'll like this or not. If they do that, they probably won't even read your blurb. So the cover is there to make them read the blurb, which is there to make them buy it. So how do we design this? There's lots of different elements in it. So I will go through and show you how I designed it. Now, because I'm recreating a design, I can do this relatively quickly. Whereas when I did the original design, it took me hours because I had a lot of trial and error. So when you pay a cover designer to do your cover, you're actually paying for all of the trial and error as well. They'll be faster at it than most of us would be because they've got lots of experience. Okay, so we're going to start with a blank canvas, and the file size is 1600 pixels by 2560 pixels. That's the cover size that Kindle recommends. This is the cover that we're going to recreate. So first of all, let's change the background to black because we're going to do a dark cover. Okay. Next, we want to find a jade heart. So I searched for jade heart, and now normally I would look in deposit photos to find an appropriate picture, but because this is a Canva challenge and I have to do the cover in Canva, I was looking only in Canva. So this is a Canva Pro image, and it's the only jade heart I could find, really. Right, we don't need the background. Let's get rid of the background. Edit photo. Now, background remover is also a Canva Pro thing, but it quite quickly removes the background. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to crop it so we only have the one heart. Because this one's nice and clear and the one underneath was not. Right, let's make this as close as possible to the edge and try and make it symmetrical either side, because otherwise when I center it, it doesn't quite center. Okay. I need it to go a little bit to the right, so let's move that in a fraction. There we go. Okay, make it a little bit bigger. Right. At the moment, it's looking a bit dull, so we need it to be a bit brighter. So let's go back to the image, edit photo, go to adjust. I'm going to turn the brightness up. That's better. We don't want to take it all the way because then it just bleaches out any shading. So we want it about there. Makes it brighter. Turn the contrast up a tiny bit. And maybe not. Okay. Right, so we've got a shiny green heart now. And in the background, there was some water. So again, I looked at loads of pictures of water and I found this one. And what we want for this, we want this to be the background. So we want to hint at water without actually having an awful lot of water in it. So let's see if I can actually leave it wide, but crop it down to here so that we've only got the water, and then let's make it bigger. There we go. Something like that so that you can tell that there's water behind. Okay. And then we're going to send it to the back position. Go to layers, move it to the back behind that. Right. It's a bit too bright, so we want to edit photo, adjust, and then we're going to turn the brightness down in that one. Maybe not all the way down, just sort of there. So we can still see that there's water. I'm going to turn the contrast up as well so that it's just giving texture. Okay. I think we need a bit more water though in there, so let's move it up a bit. There. Right. And then we also, if you look at the Dorothy Coomson covers, so if you look at the Dorothy Coomson covers, you can see that they're all, well, that one isn't, but most of them, they're just dark around the edges. See? So let's do that. Now, a good way to do dark around the edges is to go to Elements and Rectangle. Make it just the right size. Turn it to black. And then turn on the slidey icon, turn to gradient. And we need it to be like that so that there is, we're going to swap the colors around so that there's a light bit in the middle and dark bit at the edge. And then we're going to add, if you click plus, you're going to add more black. Okay, so that should do. We'll take that one down to nothing transparency wise, that one down to about 10%, 5%, and that one down to about, I don't know, depends how dark we want the edges and how close to the edges we want to get. So about that, about 30% there. So now you've got some quite dark edges. We might want to add could add another black. There we go. That makes it a little darker towards the middle. There. Yeah. Okay. So that's got our background. And then we need her name. Oh, we need the improbable 3. So for this, I'm going to write each word on a separate line. Let's turn it white so that we can see it. Select. And then hit white. There. And we also need a different font. Now the font that I used, again, this is something that took a lot of time. A lot of these use sans serif font. So I found a sans serif font that seemed to work okay. So I've done that. Then I'm going to duplicate this. Improbable. Duplicate that again. 3. Okay. Now what I'd like, I think, is for all of those to be in capitals. So one nice way to do it is to do that, to use this capitalize feature, and it will make them capital. It just means that if you change your mind, you can change them back quite easily. All right, I'm going to select all 3 again and make them bigger. Now watch that word improbable, because it needs to get as close to the edges as we can get it without it being so close that it'll get cut off when the book is printed. The improbable 3. Okay, we want the to be a little bit smaller. Improbable is about as big as we can get it. And then we want 3 to be quite big, so that it fits pretty much exactly underneath improbable. Let's make it a tiny bit smaller, and then we can make it a little bit wider. So we go to letter spacing and make it a little bit wider. There we go. The improbable 3. There. That works. That needs to come down a teeny bit. Okay. Now let's give it a color. I'm going to select all 3. I'm going to group them so that now that we've got them matching each other, we don't want them to move around, so they're being grouped. Right, let's see if we can find a color. Right, so we're going to look at document colors. That's quite good. That's a green that's come from that heart shape. So it's always good to use a color that's already in the document, because it's just less jarring that way. And Mel Francis, let's just copy that. So that's the same font. The title is in bold, but Mel's name is not. Okay, so that now doesn't look too out of place compared to, so you've got a pop of color, you've got dark edges, you've got mostly sans serif fonts. Yeah, pop of color, dark edges, mostly sans serif fonts. But you want something else to make it a little bit interesting. So what I did was I searched for crack in the elements, and I found some lovely ones, but this was the only free one I could find. And so what I did was So I put it there, and then I opened the layers panel, moved it up above the word improbable, stretched it out a bit, and I think turned it a little bit. Okay, and then I brought the edges in as much as I could so that they didn't affect the words the and three. There. So now you've got a hint of something's wrong, something's cracked. And that's a cover that you could upload straight to KDP. I think one of the other things I did was I added a little bit of a black blur behind Mel's name so that it stood out a bit more. So I searched for black blur and I got this. And I just popped it just there so that the necklace faded better into her name. Right, and then that you can share and download. If when you are downloading these, it's better to download them in PNG and then turn the size up to 3 times. Then you get a high enough resolution image that it makes a good cover. Okay, that's it. That's all there is to it. I hope that gave you some idea about designing covers if you're going to do your own. The difficulty with designing covers, the hard part isn't actually making the cover. That's the fun part. It's deciding what goes on the cover and composition. Composition is actually quite hard. If you want to contribute a cover title and a strap line and a few things for me to have a go at, just go join the Facebook group and find the thread. I'll probably be doing these every so often. So I'll be back next week with another cover design. If you found this useful, please tell all your friends. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It makes a big difference to me so that I know that it's worth doing these things. If you have a title that you'd like me to make a book cover for, join the Facebook group and pop it in the discussion there. The link is in the description. Thank you for your time.